as we officially open the Zoom service for Louisville Center for Spiritual Living, I invite us to just take a breath and welcome this beautiful Sunday, the first Sunday of October, October the 6th of 2024. Good morning, beautiful people. I am Reverend Vicky Jeter, your minister for Louisville Center for Spiritual Living Teaching Chapter, and I welcome you here today with my whole heart and soul. We welcome all paths to God. We welcome your challenges and your questions. All pieces and paths of spirit are essential to a world that works for all of us. So whether you're here with us for the first time, or if you're watching us on YouTube later, thank you for being with us today, because you are why we are here. Today, we embark on a new theme for October, Power to the People, and the first of the topics for that is Power Begins Within. Also, this week, we happen to be right in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month. And I'm so grateful that I caught this, because this has actually been going on since September the 15th, and I didn't realize it. So Hispanic Heritage Month begins September the 15th and runs through October the 15th each year. And Americans observe National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating the histories of all the cultures of Latino origin, which actually is pretty amazing. That includes Spain, certainly Mexico, but also many of the islands, like the Caribbean islands even, are impacted by Hispanic Heritage Month, which I never realized that either. So it's just a really wonderful thing. And then also down into South America. So just keeping those kinds of ideas in mind, I also want to really honor that I know everyone has what's happening with Hurricane Helene on our minds, and we will be holding that space in everything we do. And it's good practice to recognize that it's possible to do that. It's possible to stay present to things that need ongoing support, and at the same time, we continue to have the joy that we have here, have the blessing of everything that's here. And so with all of that and more, checking in for yourselves to see what brought you here today. That is another horse on the carousel. Your personal concerns, your personal inspirations for finding us today. And we take all of this into opening prayer, which begins with thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Presence of Life, for all of this and more. In one way, we are blessed that we should have such challenges as we have, because it is the gift of life. And it's the gift that we give back to Spirit. Spirit is forever giving from the all that is all, and we give back from our autonomy and our individual use of it. So thank you for that gift, as we recognize that the presence of the all is right here, right now, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. And as I recognize it, I realize in my experience that everything that is given and received today is by divine right order, as Louisville Center for Spiritual Living, and everyone that is a part of it is a work of Spirit. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. I release it, I let it be, and so it is. And this brings us to our opening song, Power by Amy Steinberg.
Good morning, Columbia. be with you. My name is Amy Steinberg, and this is my song called Power. There's a power in a seed, reminding itself how to become a tree. There's a power in a cell, and it's capable of making a you or a me. There's a power in a word, vibrating at a frequency. There's a power inside that power, inside that power is love, 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 love. And you can feel it revealed when an open, broken heart begins to be healed. It breaks like the sky when a long, dark night starts spinning on the wheel of the world. Watch it rise. Out of the ashes comes another day of bright light, shining through your eyes. So much surprise every time we fall in love, 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 love. You can sing that with me. Love, 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 love. Let's do it one more time. Love, 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 love. And there's a force in the fist, but when unclenched it ceases to exist. It shifts into light. So much freedom releases from the wrist. So insist on bliss, insist on bliss, insist on bliss, insist on bliss, insist on bliss. On bliss and love, 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 love. Do-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-bam, bam, bam, we got that, that, boo-da-da-dum. Yeah, I easily give my love to you right now. There's a power in the seed, reminding itself how to become a tree. There's a power in a cell, and it's capable of making a you or a me. There's a power in a word, love, vibrating at a frequency. And there's a power within that power, back of all that power. You know what it is? Is love. Yeah.
So beautiful. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge, thank you, Tammy Evans, for making us aware that Amy Steinberg lives in Asheville. And so beautiful synchronicity of connection there with our intention, blessing her and once again, all of them. Taking us into our mission. The mission of Louisville Center for Spiritual Living is to teach personal transformation as a virtual community, living the principles of science of mind and celebrating all paths to God. Which brings us to our vision of a world that honors and respects all people. And this, of course, we know that you can talk about spirituality all day long, and unless it actually gets worked into your daily life, it is literally lip service. So each week we have an application of what we believe, and this week our application of what we believe is, as you find your truth and you go back inward and cleanse out everything that's conflicted in your life, and you begin to always live in harmony with yourself, you find the peace that has always been your home address. And that comes from Martha Beck in The Way of Integrity. And this brings us to our sacred reading and meditation. It is so much my joy and pleasure to turn this over to Miss Katrina Doro, our practitioner of the week.
Thank you so much, Vicky. Our morning reading was written by Reverend Don Beatty from the Seattle Center in Washington. Truth heals. Acknowledging is the first courageous and transformative step towards healing our relationship with power. As Emma Curtis Hopkins wisely stated, truth heals. To embark on this journey, we must bravely confront our current beliefs and experiences with power. It can be an uncomfortable process, and power can be a triggering word for many of us. However, by shedding light on our triggers and acknowledging how power has affected us, we gain profound insights into our inner workings. This awareness paves the way for transformation and liberation. We free ourselves from the shackles of past conditioning and create a new empowering relationship with power. Through acknowledgement, we begin to recognize where our fears, insecurities, and traumas might have distorted our perception of power. We also take responsibility for any ways in which we may have misused or denied our own power. By facing these truths, we initiate a powerful healing process that allows us to reclaim our authentic power. It's essential to recognize that power itself is neutral. It is our beliefs and experiences that color our understanding of it. Through acknowledgement, we release any limiting beliefs or negative associations we might have formed around power, and we open ourselves up to embracing power as a force for good in our lives. For our morning guided meditation, let's go within. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Take a deep, refreshing breath. Relax your shoulders, neck, and back. Release any tension you might be holding in your jaw, cheeks, forehead, or face. Let the tension go. Focus your attention on your feet, rooted into the earth's surface. Notice the grounded, calm, peaceful feeling. Go within yourself and connect with the highest knowing of universal life force energy that you are aware of within your system. Feel the interconnection with your mind, body, heart, spirit, and soul. If possible, allow your system to become in alignment. If you feel comfortable, place one hand on your stomach and the other hand on your solar plexus just below your rib cage. Breathe in through your nose, feeling the air traveling through your sinuses to the back of your throat. Feel the air traveling down your windpipe and into your lungs. Allow the breath to expand your lungs and rib cage. Fully release the breath out with a gentle exhale. Take another cleansing breath and allow the depth of this breath to reach the solar plexus and abdominal area. Breathe into this moment and allow yourself to connect with your personal empowerment within. What are you noticing? Breathe into the highest level of truth you can imagine. As you breathe into truth, feel truth, know truth, and experience truth. Please remember that truth has been known to set you free. Truth heals. Truth revitalizes self-compassion. Truth aligns with wholeness and oneness. Truth creates alignment of the body, mind, heart, soul, and spirit. This meditation is an opportunity to investigate the characteristics of will, determination, and empowerment within your system. Bring your awareness to your experience with empowerment. Many of us might have had past experiences of disempowerment. Please allow truth, love, and self-compassion to comfort those areas or wounds. Breathe into those places with honoring, self-compassion, and love. Allow yourself to feel strength and the highest awareness of truth. Are you able to see yourself as a powerful force for good? Notice compassion for self, love, and empowerment within your system. Feel the power of love flowing through every cell of your body and being. Become aware of your feet again and how grounded you are on the earth's surface. Notice the smells, sounds, and even the temperature in the room. Become aware of the present moment, right here and right now. With deep self-compassion, allow yourself to walk through today with empowerment. Gently and lovingly, bring yourself back to this moment in time and space. Bring yourself back to this Zoom room with the Lowellville Center for Spiritual Living. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is. My goodness. If I had my druthers, I might not come back from that right now. But certainly, life moves us forward. And so as the first Sunday in October, we're introducing our themes freshly. The theme for the year is a grand rising. The theme for October, power to the people. And today, power begins within. And with that, I take us to our special music song, which is Peace, Presence, Power.
It started out small, something less than a touch. I didn't even know it was you. God was unreliable, a crazy man, righteous, someone I should love and fear. What kind of sense is that? It started out small, something less than a touch. I didn't even know it was you. When I stumbled upon your power, I lost what I was taught. The crazy and the righteous enfolded in a love so vast it stretched the very definition of the word love. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me.
I surrender. I surrender to your love. I surrender. I surrender.
are not outside of me, and yet you are. It makes no sense, but then it does, for you are here wherever here may be. I speak to you, you speak to me. The voice is mine and not mine, landing in the space between where you and I vanish and begin, stretching the very definition of the word me. You. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me.
I surrender. I surrender to your love. I surrender. I surrender to
I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me. I feel your peace and your presence and your power. My God, I feel your peace and your presence in me.
I surrender.
I feel your peace and your presence and your power.
Taking that pausing breath and allowing all of that to find its place. Oh my goodness. This has been so much fun for me to develop and work with. I have to say, I have sat with power many different times throughout my being a practitioner and becoming a minister. Somehow this time has been more eye-opening than all of the times individually before. And I hope that by the end of this presentation, you might have a sense of a whole different paradigm and perspective about power for yourselves as well. So power is one of those words, oh my goodness, we use it every day. We don't just use it in the human every day. Those of us who live the science of mind hear or use the word power spiritually, like, you know, the back of our hands. And still, I decided might be a good idea to start with a clarity of definition, because like so many words, we think, oh, you hear the word power, of course everybody knows what that means. But you would be surprised. As it turns out, what I looked up is power versus energy, and this is what I got. Energy generates power, not the other way around. Power is the rate at which energy is transferred or used, meaning energy is the actual quantity that is moved, while power represents how fast the energy is moving. So power isn't actually a thing at all. It is a construct for measuring energy. Who knew? So energy represents the ability to move, to do work, to do anything in physical terms that energy is required to do, which if you think about it, that's everything, because movement is life and we have to have energy to move. Okay. Power represents the rate at which energy is transferred. So recognizing that, it's like, wow. So if we think of consciousness in some way as becoming an energy at the point at which it is ignited to become, then that process of energy moving into form becomes an empowerment, because that energy is transferred through us and we gain empowerment. And that's way different. It's almost backwards of the way that I have thought about it before. Now, the next thing to realize is that power is another one of those universal qualities of spirit. So when we talk about what we are, the qualities of spirit, we are light, life, love, peace, power, beauty, joy, compassion, and any number of the other things that you might have come into in your own experience that you recognize now as a universal quality of spirit, timeless and eternal, and a part of actually universal love, an expression of universal love. So recognizing that at a spiritual level, power is one of those qualities. The next thing to realize is, just like oneness and wholeness, we can't be separated from our power. And so anytime you come into that space of feeling disempowered, or, like, where's my empowerment? One of the places to go is saying, hey, the power is always with me. So what do I need to do to reconnect to that, in the same way that we use our spiritual practices to remember our oneness and our wholeness? Same thing with power. We're going to talk quite a bit more about how that is on a human level in just a moment. Because one of the things to realize is that all of these qualities that are the qualities of what we are with us all the time, and they're always operating. Now, one of the things about the science of mind is we talk about reciprocal use of the law, reciprocal use of when we make a choice, or what's going on in our consciousness is what shows up in form. And that's actually going both ways, just like any circuit or an electronic circuit. When the circuit is closed, the light is on. And all of these qualities, a universal quality of spirit, such as power, it's moving from pure consciousness through us into the forms that we use that power for. And we are also taking that empowerment as co-creators, and we are then tapping back into that universal and making choices and operating from intention, etc., etc. And so today we're going to talk about what you've heard me call the gap of grace, and the field that consciousness moves through coming into form. Because as we understand more about the spaces in how energy moves, and the spaces between forms and like one form and another, the more we understand about that, the more we can understand how actually using our power works in human terms, and in the creative process spiritually. So one of the one element of this process of how we actually bridge between the spiritual and the human and back again is synchronicity. And I know you guys have heard me talk about this before. But I have to say, for both Katrina and I, in the process of developing this presentation, we came into a load of synchronicity that we want to share today. And that's going to end up with a story that I'll tell at the end of the talk. And then Katrina is going to share a little bit more during sharing time. So, this piece comes from the document that came from home office, and I think it's just a very good general overall. We do our inner work to create a relationship with our inner power that supports us. As we forgive and heal our internal relationship with power, we take the next step in rising our consciousness by how we express our personal power. This step asks us to release our hidden agendas. We begin to express our power with integrity and authenticity. And that goes back to the courage that Katrina was offering in the meditation. Power expressed in this manner supports and draws those around us together in support of shared causes and ideas. Coming together in our authentic power multiplies what we can do. The difference for good we can make as a group and community, and more is expanded and expressed in, through, and as the power between spirit and our individual use of it. And so, one of the next things that is a bit surprising in one way, but makes perfect sense in another, is that think about music for a moment. So, and we all know that music happens by vibration. And when you watch a piece of music, if you could watch it on a scope, where the sound is, there's a peak, and then where there's a silence, there's a valley. And without those spaces, if it was all just the sound, there would be no music. You have to have the space in between. And I'm understanding more and more now that that space in between is that gap of grace that I have identified mostly like in breath, where you breathe in and then there's a pause, and then you let go, and then there's another pause before you can breathe in again. But what's true is this space between is the gap of grace that's everywhere. And as I got looking at this and looked some other things up, I remembered that there's a whole thing out there now on a human level that if we had the structures, if we had the conditions correctly in place, we wouldn't need to be paying for electricity, because there's so much power in the spaces between forms, like in the space that's around you right now, that if we knew how to tap into it, there's so much of it they couldn't charge for it because it's limitless and everybody would have access, right? Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about the space in between. And I have a little reading here. I did not write this. This comes from a website called Transformational Presence. And it just really feeds into some of the next things we're going to look at. So they said, one of three fundamental principles upon which transformational presence is based is that everything is connected to everything else. And that when we understand that nothing in the world is separated from anything else really, the key is that the power lies in what happens in those connections, in the space between them. So coming back to that idea that actually the golden thread that keeps everything together, and one of the fundamental things to take care of the most is relationship. Just like those notes. Okay, so if you think about the notes of music, there's one note and then there's another, and those two notes have a relationship, and that relationship is predicated on the space between them. So when you think of your relationships with everything, recognizing that what happens in the space of that relationship and the space between that relationship is like where we tap into the origin of spirit. In other words, the world and life is all about relationships, relationships between people and situations, between people and ideas and beliefs, and different philosophies and situations, and the list goes on and on. And then he gives some examples about how this is played out when you do teamwork, like with coaches or with teams at work, and what people can learn about the difference between working together or coming at odds. Now, the Japanese have a word for this. They are so aware of how important this is that there is a word, and that word in Japanese is ma. The Japanese concept of ma can help us understand the significance of the space between. Ma can be described as the empty space or the gap between one thing and another, or a pause in movement and flow. Now, I also want to interject here. This is equally true about the gap that I talk about in human terms, and then it's also true about the gap between dimensions. Okay, so when we think about like where did we come from before we got here and where do we go when we leave here, that unknown, that mysterious space between is a gap of grace. And there's a reason why I'm bringing that up right now, because it figures mightily into this experience of synchronicity that Katrina and I had. So it is actually much more than empty space. Ma does not actually describe a physical space created by objects and boundaries or structures. Instead, Ma describes the essence of the energy or intention that is felt or experienced in that space. And this is where co-creativity is going to come into play. At some point, you have probably walked into a party or an event and quickly been swept up by the feeling in the room, excitement or fun. And in another place and time, perhaps you walk into a space where you feel deep calm. And yet, in other spaces, there's discomfort and disease, and you can kind of feel that, you know, there's something going on in there, and you kind of get a little cautious. What you are experiencing is the ma of that space or situation, the energy that's going on there, and what it feels like to be there. Now, in terms of this, living the science of mind, the importance here is realizing we are at choice about what we do with this consciously. Remember that what we take in with our senses, especially with any consistency, will directly be reflected in the quality of what emerges. What comes in, emerges back out, and expresses in our lives. This is so important because we live in a reciprocal universe. Now, as another example, there are probably people in your life that feel really good to be with and others you prefer to avoid. That's the ma around that person. The energy or intention that they radiate, or the energy or consciousness of a particular place. And again, recognizing this is not about them. Whatever that is, that's their perfection. It's what you choose to do with it, but just being conscious that this kind of stuff is going on. Ma is the empty space that can be filled with possibility and potentiality. What you project into the space, what feeling you bring to it, predicates what will happen next in your place in it, how it's going to affect you. You can intentionally infuse the space around or within a particular situation and with a particular intention. And as I was going through this, I don't think Doug is here today, but this so makes me think about Doug, because this is what Doug is talking about all the time. And so he gives some other examples here, but I think you get the idea. And also, he does go into the importance of intonation and sound. When speaking, you can create a particular kind of ma by your tone of voice and the tempo and rhythm of your speech. And certainly I'm picking up on this because as a presenter, all of this comes into what they teach you in becoming a really good speaker. And so this is a reminder for me not to go too far too fast. You might also pause before particular words or phrases to add significance and emphasis. Then he talks some about music and also the importance of giving things space. And I think that we've talked about this before in some other Sundays. Sometimes when you come into an experience that just feels like it's all bound up or overwhelming, one of the things you can do with this idea of Ma in mind and how important the space between is to just go where there's some expansive space. And I remember particularly the example that was given on the other Sunday that we were working, might have been even a special speaker who just said, you know, I just know if I can get outside, like under the sky where the space is expansive, suddenly it opens up my ability to be able to think. And then I can figure out where I'm at and what I need. And so the practice of spending enough time in stillness and internal peace, that inner space, you know, that Eckhart Tolle spoke of, that's in here too. And so now I want to share with you a little poem that this person left. It's an interesting little explication of how this works in human terms. 30 spokes meet the hub, though the space between them is the essence of the wheel. Pots are formed from clay, though the space inside them is the essence of the pot. Walls with windows and doors form the house, though the space within them is the essence of the home. So, taking all of this and shifting just a little bit to our more personal use of it, power is omnipotent. And now we know not only is it in spirit always available and always within us, because that's part of what we are, that it actually informs what we are. So what inhibits our use of it? Going back to some of what Katrina talked about in the meditation. Are you comfortable with the idea that you are this kind of an empowered being, that you are? One of the ways I like to think of it is that we are literally like electronic circuits for consciousness and spiritual essence and spirit. It's like that energy moves through us, becomes empowerment in that transformation. And how comfortable are we with, and gets back to one way of looking at a mental equivalent. Okay, in mental equivalence, we talk about, well, how much can we accept? Like, how big is our thimble or our dipper that we're drawing from? But in this case, it's like, how are our circuits? How much of the limitless access to empowerment are we comfortable with? And it's okay if it doesn't happen to be a whole lot in certain places. This is not to say that we're suddenly just all supposed to become people that, you know, are ready to handle just loads and loads of power. But it's about knowing, it's about being aware where we're at in certain ways, and then recognizing, do I need a little more empowerment in this area? And what would it take for me to become that kind of more empowered? Okay. So this lands right on the idea that the truth shall set you free. Whatever your truth is about that, it's okay. It's just about finding the courage or the support you need to be able to embrace what your truth about that is. And then you have more options, what you do with your relationship with the idea that you are literally emergent of this limitless power. And so that is about keeping your lines clear, you know, like staying aware when your shadow pops up or when something happens. You know, when you're going along in a day and all of a sudden something happens that triggers you, or causes you to doubt maybe in something in relationship to another person, or maybe that thing that is so common for people about driving. You know, you're going along and you're driving and all of a sudden somebody cuts you off, and then you're triggered and just, you know, not exactly expressing your power in the way that you would like. And so it's just all of this. And this is just another layer of looking at the importance of knowing who we are and what we need to do to take care of ourselves about it. So now we're going to switch into talking a little bit about the field and field generation. And to begin, I want to remind us of the quote by Rumi, because this is another thing. I mean, I am understanding so much more about this quote. And to remember that Rumi wrote this like in the 13th century, it really lends to this idea of how universal spiritual law is. Rumi said, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world becomes too full to talk about. And so, with that in mind, recognizing that when we use our power of choice, when we choose what we're going to look at, what we're going to hear, what we're going to sit with on a regular basis, and or of course there's all kinds of spontaneous things that we have to see or hear or whatever, but making conscious choices what we choose to do with those spontaneous things, and in the meantime making preference choices when we do have a choice of what we're going to be listening to or watching and what have you. Because as we take that in and as we make our meeting, that generates the field around us, and then the fields of people that we're with and so forth, you know, kind of gets back to that Venn diagram thing, you know, where do the circles meet and what's in common and what's different and all that kind of stuff. And so I actually have a little video I want to show. I'm not quite ready yet, Vernon, but I will be in just a moment. One of the recommendations that Home Office made, I was so glad, because I was thinking the same kind of thing. Some of you may know of the book Power versus Force, and it's a book by David Hawkins. It was actually very popular 10 or 20 years ago. And I found a video of David Hawkins talking about this. He is actually considered almost like a guru. Everything you find in video about David Hawkins references his spiritual orientation. And just one thing I want to say, just in general, which he actually doesn't talk about this, but I didn't want to forget to say it, is that when you think about the difference between power and force, authentic power never harms. Authentic power has no need to make someone do something, no need to take something away from someone else or go battle over something. Authentic power is unto itself and absolutely knows where the original source is and doesn't need to harm other people or other beings around that. And so when you think about someone forcing you to do something, if you feel forced, just remember that whatever that exchange is, the person who feels to you like they're trying to force you to do something, that isn't authentic power. And if you can remember that and then reclaim your own power, it can change your experience of what your options are in a situation like that. And so, very quickly, I just want to tell you, in running this video, he's going to explain first cause in a very different way than we do in Science of Mind. And so he's using different terms, but just through to the end of the video, you'll see. And you're going to hear him saying that nothing causes anything. And he's talking about in human terms. He's talking about that the world of effects cannot actually cause anything, and that everything happens spontaneously, is the way he puts it. but you'll hear more about that in the way that he says it. And so then also, very quickly, I want to tell you, he's going to mention a place called Mingus Mountain, which is just outside of Prescott, Arizona. And I just want you to notice that because it lends into the synchronicity that happened. Go ahead and play the video, please, Vernon.
If you know just a few things very well, that's all you need. To merely hear them already begins the process. Just before the world disappears altogether, you notice that everything is happening spontaneously. The most important thing to know is that everything is happening in and of its own. Nothing is being caused by anything. All phenomena are the automatic consequence of the field. The field is one of infinite, invisible, omnipotent power, all-encompassing, like a giant electromagnetic field. No beginning, no ending, either spatially or in time. Forever and always present. This field is infinitely powerful. The human mind cannot conceive of the infinite except as a concept. Its presence is exquisitely gentle and exquisitely powerful. The field is so powerful that potentiality is activated by the field to become an actuality. All things happen by virtue of the infinite power of the field. What the world considers evolution is the witnessing of creation, which is continuous. The unmanifest, beyond the linear, becomes manifest by divine providence as the totality of creation, and this happens effortlessly. Within the field, then, potentiality is actualized by intention. Therefore, each thing comes forth, manifesting its karmic inheritance. You might say its karma is its innate potential. And when conditions are appropriate, then the potentiality becomes an actuality in and of itself, as a consequence of the infinite power of the field. The field is so powerful that if you continuously hold a thought, it will become a happening. Yeah. Otherwise, no one would become enlightened. Therefore, one's intention is all-powerful. See, the ego is very clever, and as the potentiality begins to manifest, it takes credit for it. Person goes and takes a pair of scissors and cuts the stem into an apple, and he thinks he made the apple drop to the ground. That's how all things are happening, like gravity. There's no inner, separate personal self making anything happen. It holds an intention. And now, when the conditions are appropriate, the potential will manifest. I used to drive over Mingus Mountain 3 times a week. As you drive around a certain curve, there was nothing, no flowers there. All of a sudden, in the late spring, what do they call those plants that grow up like that within a couple of months? Huh? Century plant, okay. Here is this, first from nothing, within a couple of months was this incredible century plant, taller than I am, stunningly beautiful. Before there wasn't anything there. So we asked with kinesiology, how long had the seed been in the ground that grew into that century plant? And the answer was 150 years. The seed was laying in the dirt 150 years. And then
So that piece about how long something can be in the oven before human conditions are ripe for it to manifest. This story that I want to tell you very quickly, because I'm aware of our time. When I was 12 years old, 11 and 12 years old, I attended a summer camp on Mount Mingus. And this mountain is 8,000 feet high, and the camp is near the top of it. And when I heard him say Mingus Mountain, I stopped and I was like, what? What did he say? Because I had gone through many videos for this guy, and I just barely decided one more time to look at one more. And all of a sudden he's talking about Mingus Mountain. And I haven't thought about that actual camp in 50 years. And so I looked it up. And go ahead and show the next slide, Vernon. And I discovered that the summer camp that I went to on Mingus Mountain is still there, still looks exactly the same as it did when I was 12. And I had some very powerful experiences there that I'm not going to be able to actually share right now because it would be too much. But the thing to realize is that that moment of having him say that and about what he's talking about right now, and it taking me back to this place, realizing that this camp is still operating. When I went, it was I went because of belonging to Easter Seals for my disability, and they're still doing that kind of thing. And then you'll hear more when Katrina talks about her connection to this. It's, there isn't predestiny, but this thing about synchronicity, and how when we work with synchronicities and we know about the power of the field, and that spirit is communicating with us all the time and we are communicating back, that's what brings this kind of thing about. And it is just incredible. So let's go ahead with that in mind. Go ahead and move through. I want to do the closing prayer, and we will get to our closing song. And just know that this is an ongoing work because there's just so much. In trust and in great thanksgiving, I take this moment to recognize the presence of the One in, as, and through myself, in, as, and through each person within the sound of my voice, in, as, and through everyone that we touch right now by intention, because we are one fabric. And as I recognize that unity in mind, heart, and soul, I realize right here and right now the fulfillment of all potentiality that has been planted a seed or germinated or blossomed forth within this time. And I simply say, thank you, thank you, thank you, God. And I release it to let it be. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Vicky. What a wonderful talk. So, for our October prosperity affirmation, my prosperity is as plentiful as the pumpkins in the great pumpkin patch. And I would like to thank each of you in our community for your time, talents, and treasures that you share with the center. There are ways to chat that are there are ways to contribute that are mentioned in the chat. You also can do snail mail, and that is P.O. Box 43958, Louisville, Kentucky 40253. And so, just as I pass my tithe on to Vicky to bless the blessing.
And I do simply bless the blessing. Actually, she just blessed it right there. I do want to share with you all as we have this moment of recognizing how blessed that we are. I want you to know that with your tithes and giving, Louisville Center for Spiritual Living has donated $175 to the Asheville CSL for hurricane relief. And we're just so grateful for everything you all give and what we're able to do with it. So go ahead.
So, for our announcements today, I'm so excited. This upcoming Tuesday is the start of our next class, Mental Equivalence, and the instructor is Vicky. I am actually the assistant for this experience, and I look forward to seeing each of you in class. It's a 6-week commitment starting, of course, this Tuesday, October 8th through November 12th. It's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the cost of the class is $140 plus one book from Emmett Fox. And I look forward to seeing you all for this expansion and growth together. And next week is our very special Hat Week in honor of Reverend Carolyn Harville. She will be speaking about our personal power, and I can't wait to hear her divine message. And we are having a wonderful celebration in-person event on Saturday, October 19th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Steve's house. So if you have any questions, please call our friend Susan. And it's going to be a great evening to gather around the fire pit, have food and fun. I'm so looking forward to everyone connecting. And we are looking for a new board member. So if you look within and you find that passion and purpose to contribute to this community in this type of way, you'd have the opportunity to be with these wonderful human beings to move forth the vision and mission of this wonderful center. Your photo could too be on this image, and we could be celebrating you. So please let Vicky know if you're interested in joining the board of the Louisville Center for Spiritual Living. And we need your help as a community. We have had so many incredible messages over the past couple of years, and some of them are fan favorites, but we're not clear on which ones are your absolute favorite. So there are these what are called shorts. So if you look on the screen, you can see on the left side below the home, there are short videos. And there are a couple minutes, and you can remind yourself of the messages. And if you find one that you absolutely love and resonate with, please let Vicky know, because we'd like to go ahead and highlight the best of the messages we've had over the past couple years. So please let us know what your favorites are. Please join us for sharing time after the benediction, and I'm available afterwards for any kind of prayer support you may need. So please stay and join us. And as always, please remember and embody and live and know that you are magnificent. And I can hear Pat saying, "You beautiful people." And our closing song today is "Let There Be Peace, Let There Be Peace on Earth" by Bach Festival Choir.
Taking a breath, if you'd like to say with me our benediction, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about.